Ruben Amorim to be sacked in the October international break. INEOS, despite reports that they're willing to give him time, they're not willing to give him much time. They're looking at replacements Glasner, Iriola, among some of the names linked. We're going to talk about all the latest. Is Amorim's sacking inevitable? If he's only got a couple of games left and he's not going to change, and they're looking at replacements, is it just inevitable? Because we know INEOS don't want to change a manager mid-season, but apparently they're already looking at it. We're going to talk about Shea Lacey, plans to integrate him this season. He could have an opportunity. We're going to talk about Kobbie Mainoo, Newcastle iron up Mainoo. Do not dare, INEOS. Do not dare let Kobbie Mainoo go to Newcastle. Apparently Eddie Howe's a big fan. And Bruno Fernandes to Saudi links. I don't think there's anything in it, but they keep linking him to Saudi. So we're going to get into all the news. So, hello, and welcome back to Alice Talks Football, and welcome back to 10-minute Manchester United news, transfer news and update roundup show, where we round up all the latest Manchester United news into a 10-minute video for you guys, so you are up to date. Now, the first story, I'm going to get into it because it links to the second and third story I'm going to talk about, but it did come out from IndyCaler, who, for me, very hit and miss. They did get the Belaber story right. They did get a few stories right, but they have also got a lot wrong. So do take this with a pinch of salt, but it does link to the other reports that I'm going to get into from more credible sources. And that is that they dropped an exclusive today about there being a secret operation called International Reset and Play at Manchester United. And senior players are expecting to hear sacking news. Now, we know from Sully, who's got a lot of inside sources at Manchester United, and is a credible source of information, that obviously there are some doubts around Amorim internally. Obviously, the fact that he doesn't want to change, there's a feeling he probably will be sacked. But a lot of mainstream media were briefing and saying, you know what, he's going to stay, he's not close to being sacked, this and that. And that's because Man United are obviously going to brief that, because they don't want reports coming out that they're close to sacking the manager, because if he's got any chance of turning it around, they don't want that. But a lot of reports are coming out suggesting Amorim's got to the October international break. He's got 3 games. And, there is, according to IndyCaler, a secret operation called International Reset and Play. According to our sources, Man United have secret plans to sack Ruben Amorim in October international break if results don't improve drastically. There are secret documents outlining the next steps once the decision's been made. It seems like certain senior players are already anticipating his exit, which adds a layer of tension within the squad. They also go on to mention that they linked us to Glasner earlier. That's a person that we like. Glasner plays a very similar system to Ruben Amorim. So my only question is, do you either go with Glasner because it's a similar system to Ruben Amorim, but you believe that Glasner could do it better? Or do you go back to a manager that plays a back 4 because you just think that this squad isn't built for a back 5? That's the question that INEOS are going to go with. Do you want to go for someone like Iriola and go to a back 4 because the squad isn't built for a back 5? Or do we continue to build for a back 5 and bring in Glasner and hope that his approach is better than Amorim's? I think that's the one thing we've got to take into mind. But there is obviously lots of rumours of October international break, Amorim could be sacked. I think they could give until November, but I do think if we lose our next 3 games, they could have a meeting in the October international break and sack him. I think if he's going to be sacked, it's going to be in one of these international breaks coming up, and it's going to be very dependent on these results. In fact, I don't think it's a case of he's got to the end of the season no matter what. I think it's a case of he's got to the November international break to prove something. I don't think they want to sack him now. We're only 4 games in. They spent a lot of money on him. They want him to make it work, but they need to see something drastically and instantly in these next few games. If we go and win our next 3 games in a row, Amorim's brought himself a lot of time, and that could save Amorim's job, and maybe we can get some momentum going. But we need something quick. So obviously this IndyCaler report links to this report from the Disco Mirror. Ruben Amorim has 3 games to save his job as Manchester United manager, and 5 candidates have been identified to replace him with: Glasner, Marco Silva, Iriola, Poch, and Southgate. Look, I do think a lot of it is guessing work. I do think a lot of it is, well, look, Amorim's not going to stay here much longer if things don't change, and he doesn't seem to want to change, and these are the managers available. I do feel like a lot of the reports are guessing work. Some sources say he's not going to be sacked. Other sources say he is going to be sacked. I think it's a case of, let's see how the next few results go. If they go badly, he's probably sacked. I do think a lot of the media is a guessing game. Look, Glasner, Marco Silva, Iriola, Poch, Southgate. I think Iriola would probably be top of that list out of all those names. I mean, my ideal replacement for Ruben Amorim would be, and it's not realistic because I don't think he'd leave Newcastle for us because I think he's got a good project going on at Newcastle. But I think Eddie Howe. I think Eddie Howe's the best manager that is half realistic because I'm calling Hansi Flick not even realistic. Do you know what I mean? Like half realistic, but I don't think he would leave Newcastle for us. He would be my dream choice, but I don't see him leaving Newcastle for us. But I said the same about Dan Ashworth. And I said the same about I thought Sesko would pick Newcastle over us. So what do I know? I would have gone for an Eddie Howe. I like Sebastian Hoeneß at Stuttgart. They're my top two. I like Iriola. I think he's doing a good job at Bournemouth, but I think he does need money spent to make it work. And I also think we just sold our most direct and pacey players, and that's what Iriola wants. Like a lot of the players that we sold actually suit Iriola ball. Like, I'm not saying that we shouldn't have sold Rashford and we shouldn't have sold Garnacho. We had to sell them for attitude reasons. But, you know, that's the question as well. If he sat Amorim for Iriola, we now kind of need a few of those players back. We need different kind of players to come in. And I feel like what went wrong when we sat Ten Hag is instead of sacking Ten Hag for someone like Thomas Frank, who could play a similar style and you know get the best out of our players and play a back four, we sat Ten Hag for a manager that plays such a different way, and we haven't had the finances to fully back that manager to play that way. And the question is, you know, do we wait until next summer and give Amorim what he needs to play the way he wants to play and hope that it works and hope that we see what we saw at Sporting? Or has what we've seen from Amorim right now been too bad to give him the full season? Because I know Amorim hasn't got the midfielder. I know Amorim hasn't got the players to play how he wants yet. But what we're seeing from Amorim and the tactics and the in-game management has not been good enough. His responses have not been good enough. Worries me, and which is why I don't think he'll get loads of time. No, those are the reported options to replace Amorim, and Amorim has 3 games to save his job and could be sacked in the international break, according to reports. Chris Wheeler and Nathan Salt also mentioned some things. So this was mentioned by Chris Wheeler and Nathan Salt. United hope that another change of manager won't be needed and believe that the stats show an improvement this season. Some of our underlying numbers are a lot better this season, but at the end of the day, football's a results game. And after 31 games, no Premier League team that has spent the last 2 seasons in the Premier League has picked up less points than Man United. We've picked up less points than West Ham since Ruben Amorim has taken over. Graham Potter's doing better, and West Ham want Graham Potter out. But look, I think, you know, if we do beat Chelsea, we do win the next 3 games, there's something to say, you know what, let's be patient. But we haven't seen enough for me personally to sit here and be confident. I'm not confident that Amorim's going to turn around. In fact, I feel his sacking is inevitable because he's not going to change. Now, Chris Wheeler and Nathan Salt also mentioned among the bookmakers' names are Marco Silva, Oliver Glasner, Unai Emery, and Iriola. It seems to be a lot of Premier League proven managers. I think Iriola is probably the one to watch. I think Marco Silva, I think, is a stepping stone manager, but it could stabilise us. Glasner, similar approach to Amorim, and Unai Emery, you know, his job could be at risk if things go wrong. But the one thing you've got to remember is if we sack Ruben Amorim, we have to pay him £12 million. Someone did comment on my video today, actually, that maybe Amorim wants to be sacked so we can get £12 million payout and go back to Portugal. But no, we do have to pay him £12 million. So why do I feel like Ruben Amorim's sacking is inevitable? Ruben Amorim said this: the problem is not the system. You saw Manchester United play with a different system. Most of the time it was a 4-3-3, and it was more or less the same result. I will try my best according to my vision of the game. I don't see the system like you do. I'll try and do my job. We saw 4-3-3 under Ten Hag. It was bad, but it's not more or less the same. 8th, 15th. Amorim is rock bottom of the Premier League for points since he's come in, for teams that have been there both seasons. So that's 17th out of 17th. That's where Amorim is since he's come in. Ten Hag was 8th. You can't say more or less the same results when you're 17th averaging and Ten Hag was averaging 8th. You can't say more or less the same results. You can't. The 4-3-3 was bad. Eric Ten Hag needed to go. Eric Ten Hag needed to be sacked. It was bad, but it was a lot better than this. Anyway, continuing on, I want to talk about Shea Lacey. Let's talk about some more positive news. Nathan Salt said there's increasing optimism that Shea Lacey is getting closer to the first team group. He's not injured despite not being involved tonight for the under-21s. We know that Shea Lacey is probably our most technically talented player in the academy, probably the highest rated, but because of his injury issues, he's had a lot of setbacks. He's one of the highest rated players we have. He's seen as the next Phil Foden, but he's had a lot of injury issues. And he's someone that could get opportunities in the first team, could be in and around first team training. The annoying thing about going out the Carabao Cup so early and not being in a competition like the Europa League is there's not really any opportunities for the youth to get minutes this season, which I think is why the likes of Toby Collier went out on loan because of that. I also want to mention a few other stories. Alex Crook did mention that Newcastle are keeping tabs on one-to-way Man United midfielder Kobbie Mainoo ahead of the January window. Look, Kobbie came on versus City, offered control, was our best midfielder. I think we'd be silly to sell Kobbie. We need to make it work. We need to find a way to make it work. I think he's such a naturally talented player. And then last but not least, Football Insider, and Footy Insider, of course, take them with a pinch of salt. They're not a reliable source of information. Did speak about Bruno, and they said that Bruno is prepared to reconsider his commitment to Manchester United if the team does not start showing progress under Ruben Amorim, and clubs in Saudi are monitoring him. Obviously, I don't see Bruno leaving anytime now. I don't see Bruno leaving now. I don't see Bruno leaving in January. Maybe Bruno leaves next summer if the right offer comes in, but I don't think he's going to leave now, and I don't think he's going to leave in January. But there is talk of Bruno being frustrated. He doesn't like playing deep. He doesn't like where Manchester United are at right now, and can you blame him? Anyway, thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts down below. See you next time. Bye.